Hello and welcome to another episode of 207 Aikido. A quick one here about Tenkai Kotehineri. Kono Sensei has an interesting way of thinking about how to set this one up.
And one more other thing is, when you start doing that, he's not really going to raise a thought that he's going to go underneath. This becomes a block too. So he's just going to do it. You got wrist cut tight, right? Right? It's still a bit tight. Why? Why did it get tight? No, it isn't. You start to think you're going to turn. Just by thinking it's tight. Don't think, just do it. Just do it. You come to here, if the red thought comes up, I gotta go like this, and this tightens up. Because why? The thought goes to the left, thought stays to the front.
So as with a lot of Kono Sensei's techniques, the crux of Tenkai Kotehineri, or Sankyo as many of you will know it, is the part where you turn around. Right? But as with many of Kono Sensei's versions of techniques, I'm not going to intend to do the very thing that seems like the identity of the technique. I'm not going to intend to turn around. I'm just going to walk forwards, and I keep going forwards, and at a certain point, the turn ends up happening. I'm not intending to turn, but it just happens. So I guess we'll do this from a grab here. Here, I'm just going to walk forwards, and now I'm where I want to be. Okay, jump cut. One thing I forgot to mention when we recorded this previously was how you can make this happen faster. So we mentioned that I want to just go, I don't want to think about going under Eric's arm. I just want to go forward, and going under and turning just happens naturally. But you can make it happen naturally more quickly by lowering your center, by making that dip. So I'm going, if I go down, that can happen more quickly. And I remember Shishida Sensei telling a story about, I think one of the captains of the Waseda team would do this, or maybe it was Shihonage, basically right down here. Well, that's just the extreme version of the dip. And that's not obviously quite how he did it.
He would come down with the other knee. And then switch knees.
And then switch, Okay, yes. Right. So here would be, is that what you're saying?
I believe so.
Yeah. At any rate, you can make the technique happen more quickly if you add the dip. And this is something that holds true for a lot of the techniques that Henry does. You want to wait until yin naturally switches to yang. If you don't do a dip, it just requires a lot of foot motion until there we've switched. But if you do the dip, so here, let's see if I can remember this. If I go down here, for instance, I can make it happen more quickly. Or what I was going to do previously, if I just go down there, it happens more quickly. So think about that. That carries over for a lot of different techniques. You want to wait until the moment is right to just allow the technique to happen. But if you want that moment to come sooner, add in a dip.
Because it's nice about he has to raise what he can. You get something. You don't have to drop that much. You don't have to drop this one. 2 inch, 1 inch.
Okay, I'm cutting back into this one more time to just make the point that I don't think I made, which is that there are a number of dangers of having the intention of going under Uke's arm. And the most obvious one is that you're going to go under too soon, and there's a number of mechanical vulnerabilities that Uke can exploit there. But even more than those, just having the intention of wanting to go under Uke's arm is a vulnerability in and of itself that Uke can exploit. So the more that we can reduce those intentions, the better off we're going to be. And then the second thing that I was going to talk about was the takedown, and I thought I had it all figured out, and then it turns out that we all have our own different ways of thinking about this. So I think rather than showing one, we're just going to show 3 different versions of this technique. So the one that I was thinking about was to separate, and actually let's bring the camera right in close. Basically trying to isolate as much as possible Eric's hand from his body, like this. The opposite being if I was to move this a lot and make an arc with it or anything like that where I'm moving it. If Eric is really strong, or I'm smaller, if I haven't isolated that, if I'm sort of working out at this joint or something, at this point now he's got it. Or I don't have it. I've had to give it up. But if I decide to just fight this hand, it's much easier for me. And then the other thing we were thinking about, either with beginners who don't know what's going to happen and aren't comfortable going down, or when you're sort of horsing around, like the example for me is horsing around with my brother, he always ends up in this position. And I was thinking that what had to happen was I had to keep Uke's elbows in front so that when the arm folds, it goes into the body rather than behind. And I thought I had solved everything. But I think even more as we were playing with it, what happens is as I am turning Eric's hand, Uke's hand, over here, it's naturally going to jump here as it goes over. So what I'm thinking about now is dropping the hand. As I'm turning the hand, it's also dropping so that at this point, how was I describing it? My thumb here is the pivot point, and Eric can just go around it. But if I drop this pivot point as I'm going down, Eric has to keep going down in order to get around to where he could fold it over. So the version that I'm sort of doing is to get here and then drop this very quickly to the ground. So now I'm gonna pass over the reins to Eric. So Eric and Chad were messing around with this part that was sort of what we were working on and came up with something different.
Okay, so when Chad was resisting this, I think he has a little bit less flexibility in his shoulder, which means that in order to bring the arm behind his back, he needs to apply pressure downwards on this hand to bring it back. And I, in return, am trying to lift him up here a little bit. And so meeting an opponent like that, trying to figure out how to, because he's very strong as well, avoid him from forcing his arm back behind him, which for him is pretty easy compared to a weaker opponent. So as I'm twisting here, he's pressing down into my hand to try and force that behind him. And I allow that tension to build up slightly and then release it downwards. And it's more trying to blend with the energy than on the downwards, disappearing, allowing him to use that arm as a third leg to try and pull himself behind, and then releasing that leg out from underneath of him and bring him down.
Which is much more of an Aiki strategy than mine. But in some degree, it varies on the Uke, right? Because
exactly.
Danny, who's actually got the camera right now, is so floppy that there's no need to apply any force at all there. He'll just put it right behind his back.
And Janine as well, we were experimenting. When we do this on Janine, I can't do that here because she will just tuck this right behind her back very easily. I have to do it up here, almost at her ear level, before she has to apply downward pressure. And eventually she does, and that's when I can bring her down. But down here, she doesn't have to apply, she can just change her entire body movement and get into that position pretty easily. unless I try and run around her. But she can still pivot in one spot faster than I can pivot around her.
So do you want to, Janine, would you like, because Janine had sort of a slightly different way of approaching it, so here we go, third way.
So for my version, once I'm here, both Charlie and Eric have been thinking about this where I think they've been holding a little bit lower on the hand and they've been twisting at the fingers. And what I've ended up doing is actually I turn the hand, I think I'm also a little more flexible in my hand, so my hand tends to have more of a 90-degree angle. So I think about Uke's hand ending up with more of a 90-degree angle and how to still control them. And I have a smaller hand than them. So a lot of times it's a lot of pressure on my wrist to control them from here. And so I've been taking my other hand and cutting in at Uke's pinky and thinking of like cutting up and at an angle to sort of give some of that extra, I don't know, extra support in there. So I actually use this hand much more to control them. And then once I feel that tension, then I use the other hand again to lead them down. So I start by cutting up, but then switch to leading straight down. And I think that seems to have worked well for me. So just one other way of thinking about it.
Here, let's just once more for the camera.
So up, cutting up.
Awesome. So there you have it. There's no one way to do a technique. It all depends on your own body and the body of your partner and what's going on at the moment. So play with those and let us know what you think. Thanks.